Fake Baseball Podcast is brought to you by Moonshots MLB. Whether season-long DFS or wagering is your thing, Moonshots MLB has the tools and content to help you succeed. All in one place in an easy-to-navigate, clean user interface. Basic stats combined with enriched StatCast data provide you a unique and fun experience. Weekly projections and weekly schedule to spot matchups for your start-sit decisions for the season-long players. DraftKings and FanDuel projections and optimizer for the DFSers. Wagering? Got that too. A full odds board with game lines and player props for multiple markets and sportsbooks, featuring calculated ROI, and so much more. If Moonshots MLB isn't part of your fantasy DFS or wagering process, you are missing out. Be a part of a growing and exciting community. Follow them on X at Moonshots MLB for more information. Moonshots MLB, more than just your average launch angle. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to episode 44 of the Fake Baseball Podcast. We've got so many now that I actually can't fully remember. I think it's 44. That sounds good. As always, it is Blake Meyer back again with my man Dylan Lydell and friend of the program Gary Sheffield Jr. Gary, I'm gonna throw it to you first. How are you doing today, dude?
Dude, my Yankees are winning, and I don't care. We're playing Oakland right now. We're winning games. I think most people expected Baltimore to just kind of run away with this division, and anytime the Yankees are in it, I'm in a good mood. So for now, I'm glad you brought me on this week because I'm in a good mood. So perfect timing for me.
It sounds like we caught you on a good day. And you guys, make sure you go check out Gary's new podcast, Yankees Unloaded, over on YouTube. Go check that out. Subscribe. Watch the episodes. It's a ton of great content over there with him and his co-host. And then Dylan, how are you doing today, man?
Hey, I can't complain myself either. Played a little hooky from work today. Watched the Mariners in the morning. Got the house cleaned up a little bit, and then today's also like one of my favorite days of the year. Like it's up there with opening day in the Super Bowl. I love day one of the NFL draft too, man. So it's been a good day, and ready to chat some stuff up with you guys. Ready to get some ball talking too.
For real. And I'm having a good day. Just for anybody that cares.
How are you doing, Blake? How are you doing?
I am doing swell. Yeah. I just submitted my article to Pitcher List today, which will go out tomorrow. Tonight, I have another article I have to write for Fantasy Pros, my weekly planner for next week. So make sure you guys check that out tomorrow morning because I'm going to be working my ass off on it after I get done with this podcast. But let's get right into some talk. We're here to do a fantasy baseball heat check, baby. There's a lot of talk lately on this podcast about who's not doing so good and what you should do with them. So we figure, why not highlight some dudes that are doing good and what we think about their start so far and the future of their season. And with Gary being on the podcast, it is only right that we start with a Yankee, somebody that he talked pretty extensively about last time he was on the podcast. Make sure you guys go check that episode out. Mr. Juan Soto. Gary, how you feeling about Juan Soto so far this year?
Dude, he's perfect. Dude's perfect. And you know what's so funny about this is that everyone said he was going to be the perfect Yankee. He's the perfect baseball player. He's just the type of guy that, and I know we're going to talk about Elly De La Cruz later in the show. There's some players out there that are just the perfect fit for anybody. And you can say, yeah, he's going to be the perfect Yankee, but who doesn't want a 25-year-old? And yeah, Juan Soto's 25. People forget that. This is still a young player. Like there's some players that we talk about as being guys who could be coming out of systems and guys who are maybe in their first and second year who are 25. No, Juan Soto's been a part of this league for a long time. And the fact that the Yankees could have a long-term partnership with this guy and for the Yankees to be playing as well as they are, Aaron Judge really hasn't done much. So it kind of goes to show you what Juan Soto's done outside of statistics in terms of impact. So he's just been completely dominant in the offensive side of the game. They put him in right field in Yankee Stadium, which has been a huge help for him defensively. And the Yankees right now are reaping the rewards. So I'm loving it.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of guys go sign with the Yankees over the years. A lot of them never really seem right in pinstripes, but I'm not going to lie. I don't think I've ever seen somebody that looks so perfect in pinstripes. Like, he has the energy that was built for that New York Yankees lineup. He hit that mammoth home run the other day and just showed so much emotion after he hit that thing. And I mean, I was looking up before the episode, just doing my little pre-episode research. He's already worth 1.7 WAR. We're 25 games in.
That's insane.
That's better than Ellie right now. And you know what's crazy? When you say he's the perfect Yankee, I think that's a confidence thing, to be quite honest with you, because when you think about which players worked out in pinstripes and which ones didn't, most of those players that worked out are usually like very highly confident players. They have always believed in themselves, even prior to being a Yankee. And so, like, we'll use Joey Gallo as a perfect example. There were some question marks as to what someone thought about Joey Gallo, what others thought. Obviously, WAR in terms of what the analytics said. They said before Gallo became a Yankee that he was a highly productive player. Meanwhile, there are many other people in the game, more old school fans, we can call them. I happen to be one of them. And they question that impact. Now, when he got to pinstripes and he started to struggle, now all of a sudden it became a tug of war of how good is this player? And it seemed like he was having that tug of war himself. And then it completely compiled on us. Like, it got so bad that he just never recovered. And then Juan Soto, I think everyone, analytics, old school fans, everybody on this show right now, and listeners all agree. Yeah, Juan Soto is the real deal. So I didn't think it was going to be too hard of a prediction to say he was going to work out in New York.
Yeah, and I mean, I think last time you were on, I think you said 50 home runs you thought was a realistic goal for or target, I should say, for Soto this year. I'm not gonna lie, I think I'm on board. I don't know if I was on board back then. I don't fully remember, but right now it feels real because everything he's hitting is crazy. He has a 60% hard hit rate. That's, I mean, I get it. Small sample sizes. We say it all the time. Small sample sizes are what you want to make of them. If you want them to be small and meaningless, they're small and meaningless. If you want to find a real value in them, you can find real value in them. Yeah. I think a 25 game sample and having a 60% hard hit rate still, that's the real deal. That's the highest of his career. His average exit velocity is like 95 miles an hour. Just absurd. You shouldn't be able to do that. And again, we've talked about vibes before as well. I think it's one of the most underrated parts of baseball, which sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud. But like last year's Tampa Bay Rays at the beginning of the season, that was a big vibes team. They had guys that were literal nobodies. No offense to them. They could hit a baseball a lot better than me, but they're literal nobodies in the sense of a major league roster hitting for ridiculous production, like Taylor Walls. Who the hell's Taylor Walls? He was a really good hitter there for 3 months last year. Like, that team was just absurd. And the Yankees are giving me those similar vibes this year. And guys like Soto can feed off of that. And then the production just steamrolls this way downhill. So Dylan, what kind of home run numbers are you thinking we can expect to see out of Soto for the rest of this year?
Yeah, and I don't think Soto was traded the last time we had Gary on, was he? He was still in San Diego. So, yep. I mean, this was one of the spots.
Still vacationing.
Yeah, right. And so this is one of the spots I wanted to see him land. You know, just taking advantage of that right field wall in Yankee Stadium, the fit with Aaron Judge, who hasn't even gotten going yet, what Gary mentioned. I mean, it's really a match made in heaven. Like, I could easily see him 40 plus, 45, and that 50 range I think is possible this year. He's already at 6. So yeah, and this is without much help. Gleyber Torres hasn't been incredible either. Volpe's been nice, but I mean, it's been Soto, Volpe, but hasn't had his big help from Judge yet. So I think the best is even yet to come for him this year.
It's hitting 474 with runners in scoring position.
That's just video game. That's slugfest loaded numbers. And to be honest with you guys, if I had to give you a real estimate now, because I know those estimates look good when they're off to a hot start, but a lot of people question whether or not Juan Soto was going to continue on with his approach, which was an all fields approach. People talked about, is he going to try to get pull happy? Is he going to try to put the ball in the air more than he normally would in any other year of his career? And what Juan Soto has proven, at least thus far, is that he's willing to go the other way. And I would say, if you're going to make a prediction that someone's going to hit 50 home runs, part of that's got to be that approach changes as well, because Juan Soto hitting the ball to left center and right center field at Yankee Stadium's not that small out there. Like, Yankee Stadium can play pretty big to those portions of the field. So I think the fact that Juan Soto's continuing on with that spray it to all fields approach, being an all-around talent, hitting in front of Aaron Judge, and then you combine it with Aaron Judge, who's not hitting right now. I mean, he hit well yesterday, but overall, he hasn't made his impact. So you can expect those walks to pile up for Soto. And I changed my prediction maybe a few days ago on my show, and I mentioned that I think Soto's a contender to potentially win a batting title. And you've got to get your walks, at least analytically. You're not going to be able to just put the ball in play all season long and win a batting title. Yeah. So overall, I mean, this dude's he's sick.
Mm-hmm.
He is. And so I'm going to use this time for a perfect transition into somebody that I didn't put on any of our show notes, but I have to ask you about him because he's a Yankee. And I was just on the new Fantasy Pros podcast yesterday. The episode's out today. It's called The Cycle. We talked about struggling hitters and how he felt about them in the fantasy baseball sense. Gleyber Torres is one that got brought up. I think I've been asked more about Gleyber Torres the last 2 weeks than any other player in baseball. I have legitimate worries about him. Are you as worried about Gleyber Torres as maybe me or the people asking me are?
You know, this is such a tricky one because you never know how a player is going to respond in their contract year. I think a lot of people are forgetting that he's essentially in an open tryout. He knows that this Yankees organization is after a short-term win in terms of a World Series championship. They obviously just went and got a player that they really only have in Juan Soto for one guaranteed season. But I think most people are making the assumption that those allocation of funds are going to be going to Juan Soto. But having said that, that leaves Gleyber Torres in an open tryout for the rest of Major League Baseball, trying to earn a big money contract, because since then he's basically been in arbitration, and you don't really know how he's going to deal with it. So I would say this: my expectation is that most players tend to pick it up, especially in the hotter months. I'm not worried about Gleyber Torres right now. I think the weather is at least somewhat of an issue for him. He's never really had light tower power, but when it does warm up, Gleyber Torres is going to be able to leave the stadium. I think he'll get some confidence. I don't think fantasy owners should be worried.
I agree with you there. I think the weather does play a little bit of a factor, and it is kind of that contract year. I don't want to say stress, but some guys tend to, Julio is a prime example, not to always take everything back to the Mariners, but Julio wants to start off every season so good, so he presses to try and start good. I think Gleyber may be doing the same thing a little bit, like really pressing to try and get the production up, and it's actually a hindrance when you do that. The only real worry I have about Gleyber right now is he's never been great at hitting breaking or off-speed pitches. He's not doing well hitting those this year, but he's struggling to hit the fastball this year compared to prior years. I always get slightly concerned when somebody's ability to hit the fastball wanes a little bit, just because that kind of is the pitch that not everybody doesn't necessarily destroy fastballs, but if there's one thing you're going to be really good at hitting, it's typically a fastball. So if he could turn that around, I agree. But getting it back on track, we'll keep it with the Yankees. Dylan, I'm going to throw it to you first. Anthony Volpe is somebody that we talked about before this season as a player that had maybe the quietest 2020 season in MLB history. So much was put into Julio last year and Corbin Carroll and Bobby Witt Jr. and all that. The Anthony Volpe went 2020 for the New York Yankees, and there's probably a lot of people coming into the season that didn't even realize that. I think he's cooled off a bit lately.
Yeah.
But Dylan, what are your current thoughts on Volpe right now?
I mean, he's still hitting just under 300. Couple bombs, up to 6 steals. I mean, quarter of the way there for his steals for 2020. And like I said, I think he's a guy that can also benefit from the heat, the hotter months too. He's going to be in the lineup every day. He's a Gold Glove shortstop, so I don't think there's any worry about like job security or anything. But as a rookie, came in 21 years old. He locked down shortstop every day and did so during 2020. Only hit 200, but if you can just get that average up and just find a little bit more consistency, who knows like how good this guy actually can be. I think he'll get better as time goes along. So I'm not too worried about him. I'm still not, I'm still there with Anthony Volpe. I still got faith in him. I'm good.
Yeah, just a 2.7% barrel rate this year. He's not a guy that's going to barrel a ton of baseballs, though. But his last 10 or so games haven't been great. He did have 2 hits against Oakland on the 24th, so he's picked it up a little bit. Gary, what are your thoughts right now on Anthony Volpe, especially now that he's hitting leadoff for the Yankees? Do you think he sticks at leadoff for the foreseeable future, or do you think maybe with the struggles they move him back down in the order?
Well, he should stay. He should stay at leadoff, and I was one of those people who said that he should get that promotion, move him from the 6 and 7 spot, put him up there, and put him in front of Juan Soto and Aaron Judge. But my assessment on Anthony Volpe has always been the same. He swung himself into hitting he was leading the league in hitting a few weeks into the season, and everyone said, well, this is the superstar that the Yankees envision. But I told our audience on Yankees Unloaded that he's still got to get his walks. He's got 10 walks so far this year. Obviously his on-base percentage is 370. Not hard to accomplish when your batting average is over 300. He's got a knock today. Mm-hmm. But having said that, he's got something to learn from Juan Soto. There's some good habits that Soto brings to the yard that he can learn in his own game. And in my opinion, the last few weeks, when we say he struggled, he did. But he swung himself into some of those struggles. He put himself in situations behind in counts, chasing pitches that he frankly was not chasing the first couple weeks of the season. And I think this is a good thing long-term for him, is just getting these struggles out the way and then getting up off the mat and having the Yankees say, okay, you can fall down and we'll allow you to get through this. We'll allow you to work through it. They're doing the same thing right now with Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge, of course, people have talked and asked me plenty. Do the Yankees move him out of the 3 spot and wait for his bat to heat up? And I told people, absolutely not. You leave him in the position that he's in and you wait for him to be the player that you expect him to be. And now he is. He had his production yesterday. The Yankees were all systems go. And then again today with Anthony Volpe, he seems to be off to the races again. So yeah, in my opinion, if he can get some walks and remember that the best way to get on base isn't always to get a hit, I think Volpe will be in really good shape, and we'll be talking in maybe a year or two about a superstar.
Yeah, 9 straight games without a walk right now, which isn't great for those speedsters. But yeah, I mean, I'm in full agreement there. I think you kind of just let him hit his way through it. That's what really needs to happen. And I think part of the struggles lately does fall into a little bit of that small sample size category that we talked about. I mean, it came against, it was at home, but at home against Tampa Bay, who has good pitching, even though they've had all of those injuries to their starters, they still have great pitching. And then it was against Gausman and Kikuchi in Toronto. So he faced like legitimately good pitching. I don't know what's going on with Kikuchi this year, but he's a good pitcher now all of a sudden. So it wasn't like he went and played a bunch of bums and struggled his way
shut
through
us down. No one hit him. The dude was
which
nasty.
Is crazy. He has like a 2.02 ERA this year. I would have bet $1 million that wasn't going to be the case at this point in the season before it started. But moving on from Volpe, we gotta cover the guy that's like the talk of baseball. If we're gonna do a legitimate heat check, there's one guy that's got to be featured on this episode. But before I say his name, make sure you guys do go check out our Patreon, patreon.com/theFakeBaseballPodcast. It's only $5 a month. It's less than the cup of coffee that you bought yourself on the way to work this morning. You get extra bonus episodes, written content from us, and merch in the future. Just a little hint, hint, wink, wink. So make sure you guys go check that out. Patreon.com/theFakeBaseballPodcast. Very easy to find. But the boy, Elly De La Cruz. Oh my God. I don't think anybody saw this coming. I know from the fantasy perspective, many of us did not. I'll put my name out there right now. I was out on Elly De La Cruz this year. There was a lot of things. There's a lot of things that I saw that I didn't like. I have been very steadfast since I found it earlier. Last July, the Elly needs to stop being a switch hitter because the man cannot hit as a right-hander. And there's actual bat speed StatCast data that just came out that shows that his swing speed as a right-hander is like 3 miles per hour slower than as a lefty. So things like that made me legitimately worried about how good he could be. But now he's 122. I think I guess today would make it 123 games into his career. I think he played today. And he's got 20 home runs and 50 stolen bases. He is currently on a better pace to start this year than Ronald Acuna Jr. was last year when he became the first player in Major League history to go 40-70 in a season. Gary, I'm going to throw it to you. What is the ceiling for Elly De La Cruz right now?
Well, again, it's a lot of times when you talk about a player and is he going to graduate from being a perennial physical superstar to an actual superstar, like actually put it together and be that player that everyone, be a household name. And again, I don't think a lot of people really know what his numbers were last year, because we all were talking about him for about a month and a half stretch there. He was just absurd, not even fair, video games. And he actually ended up hitting 235 last year. So he struggled. He just flat out struggled. And he came out this year. He's already got 15 stolen bases. And frankly, he's drawing his walks. He's got 13 already this year. And I know it seems that I always bring the conversation back to walks, but if you want to be a consistent hitter in Major League Baseball, walks tend to be the one common denominator between the greats and the goods. And so I think the fact that he's starting to learn this game, what he has to do, what he doesn't, and now his tools seem to be on full display. And I'm telling you right now, this dude is 22 years old. If he is going to play this way, the Reds have a good one.
Dylan, how are you feeling about Elly De La Cruz right now?
I'm ready to say that I was wrong, man. Like just like you did too, Blake. I was wrong because it was the consistency thing. We saw the ceiling in what Elly has to offer last year, but like Gary was saying, it wasn't a long enough stretch for me to feel comfortable with it. I needed to see more of it. Then I brought it up on our show a couple episodes ago. First thing that I always go to as well is that strikeout to walk ratio. And he's getting his walks this year. I mean, his StatCast numbers offensively look a heck of a lot better too. But him drawing his walks is huge. Better idea of the strike zone. He's still chasing after some stuff, but like he said, like you got to give and take with this guy. And once he figures out the rest of his game, who knows what this guy can be. Like you said, he's on a better pace right now than Acuna was last year. And that was one of the best seasons we've ever seen from a guy. So look out, man, because I don't think we really know what we got here yet.
Yeah, he's the only person that, I mean, I guess I could think of a few people, but anytime he's on base, you can just kind of lock it in that he's going to score. He stole third base 8 times this year. Nobody else has done it more than wild. 2. And this is going to be horrible podcasting, but Thomas Nestico, shout out TJ Stats on Twitter. I'm going to put this up. It says Elly De La Cruz is making Juan Soto-esque swing decisions. If you guys can see, it's going to be backwards. The left side or whatever that's where he's at now. His run value per 100 pitches is more than double the league average. It's actually, he had to expand the size of the graph to be able to fit where Ellie's at right now on there. He's making incredible swing decisions.
You get rewarded for it, man.
Yeah, he's making better contact than last year. He always has extra base hit ability, stolen bases. The fact he's been thrown out 3 times blows my mind. I think that's one of the craziest things. I don't know how you throw that man out. He can steal 2 bases right now,
by the way, is in Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani territory. So even if that plate discipline regresses to league average, his plate discipline wasn't league average last year. He was below average. And so when you're talking about a dude with those type of tools, if he can just be serviceable in that department, Cincinnati is going to break through. And this is kind of what I said about Seattle last year, is that when you have guys like Julio struggling, when you've got guys like Julio struggling, and you have people like me who get on podcasts and say, hey, what are those teams out there that you can see breaking through? Well, that big superstar that everyone projects, he's got to perform, and not when it gets hot in the middle of the year. No. Right now. And we're seeing him show those adjustments right off the rip. The same adjustments that Anthony Volpe's making now The fact that they're making those adjustments, he's showing how he's improving his game. He's not just trying to hit the ball hard or hit the ball a long way. He's trying to be a complete baseball player. And I think the earlier you can show that, the faster I can make the projection that Cincinnati can make a run.
Fully agree. Fully agree with that. I think they're literally just inches away from being not even a playoff contender, but like if they make the playoffs, the team that you don't want to face in the playoffs. And Ellie has done stuff like this before. I know back in I think it was late 2022. Or no, it was early last year before he officially got called up. Kind of the one thing they asked Ellie to do was like, hey, can you show us that you can improve your plate discipline and strike out less, please? And he cut his strikeout rate down over like a month time frame. Don't quote me on this, but he cut his strikeout rate down to like 18% or something like that, just to be like, look, I can make the tangible changes that you're asking me to make, and I can put them to use and actually be productive with that. So he does seem like a guy that's constantly learning and adapting. And the fact that you could be like 6'7" and play shortstop and be the fastest running, hardest hitting, fastest throwing player in baseball that young is absurd.
Well, that's really what Acuna thrived off of, was better swing decisions and taking advantage of that. We see the superstar with him, seeing it with Ellie now. And I love that you brought up Julio too, Gary, because we're still waiting on that. He's still chasing everything all over the place. And so I really hope he can just tighten up and take notes from these guys, because he's got the same potential as these guys, these two players. But yeah, insane what Ellie's doing this season. Insane.
Uncle Ted said Nats make a run before the Reds do. Wild. Gary,
Nats are looking good.
I want to ask you.
They look all right.
They are. Jesse Winker, baby. He's hot right now. But Gary, I mean, I'm just gonna keep it in the Yankees family right now. Throwing you another curveball. Something I didn't put on the show sheet. It happens. Spencer Jones. I'm in the card collecting world outside of the podcast. Spencer Jones is a very hot name for prospectors that are collecting cards. You want to talk about physical specimen? He is. It feels like to me on the outside, Aaron Judge 2.0. What are your thoughts on Spencer Jones currently, and when do you think maybe we could see him, if you have any kind of idea?
To be honest with you, you just never know, because a lot of getting called up is all about which organization in terms of team needs, right? And if you look at the Yankees right now, I don't think a lot of people realize that they look at the stat sheet and see Spencer Jones and say, oh, okay, he's awfully tall. He's got power. He can do it all. But I don't think they realize how athletic he is. And I think that's going to be the biggest eye opener for people when he does inevitably get called up, hopefully with the Yankees. But when you look at their roster construction, they've got Juan Soto in right field. They've basically committed to the fact that he's going to be a right fielder. He's going to play over there in the short porch. And Aaron Judge is going to be your full-time center fielder. Well, what happens when Jason Dominguez comes back? Well, now, okay, Dominguez goes to center field or left field. He'll probably DH due to health concerns, right? He had Tommy John. So you're going to expect Dominguez to be the DH. Okay. Well, that leaves left field and Alex Verdugo. Well, if you watch what Spencer Jones is doing, he's the type of guy with a more level swing, considering how big he is. He has a much more repeatable swing than I think what people are anticipating. So when he does get on the field at Yankee Stadium, I think the Yankees are going to look at him and say, this might be our opportunity to put another solidified superstar out in the outfield and get Aaron Judge off his feet full time into the DH position. And I think that's something that the Yankees should not take lightly, because you've seen other organizations like the Houston Astros with Alvarez, David Ortiz in the early 2000s, and being a full-time DH and getting that production. Spencer Jones can be a big part of that puzzle piece. So I'm definitely waiting to see what he does. But I mean, of course, if we're going to get the type of production we're already getting out of the outfield, I'm not exactly freaking out about a prospect.
I don't blame you. I like the angle of getting Aaron Judge out of center field. I know Dylan had just He tried to convince me when Jonathan Class A got called up by Seattle that maybe that means Julio gets moved out of center field because center field can be kind of a wear on your body. And when you're kind of a bigger bodied center fielder, it doesn't bode well. And I think when you take somebody like Aaron Judge, who is playing center field for the Yankees, the dude's 6'7" and he's 31 right now. There was that StatCast data that did come out that showed bat speed declines drastically from age 31 and beyond. And so I think getting somebody out there that can get a 31-year-old 6'7" Aaron Judge out of center field and into that DH role as soon as possible is probably for the best if you want to try and get as many of those massive years out of him as you can before he's Giancarlo Stanton 2.0, hitting you 30 home runs.
And Spencer Jones, by the way, is a type of guy in terms of athleticism, just pure athleticism, that you can move to first base. This is the type of guy, when you're talking about what Bryce Harper did in Philadelphia, moving over to first base, and what type of athlete, because people always make these projections. Hey, I don't like this guy's fit in the outfield. What can he do over at first base? Is he a DH? Now, Spencer Jones is the type of guy you can go ahead and put on a different glove. It's like Mookie Betts. They're going to make it work. And I like what I see, mainly offensively. Defensively, we'll work it out. So, yeah, love what I see.
Real quick. Uncle Ted said, who's better, James Wood or Spencer Jones? For me personally, to go, I think it's pretty close, but I'm going to go Spencer Jones just because Spencer Jones has the speed advantage. I mean, they're both like the same size. Spencer Jones is faster, and he has a frame that power is going to just kind of come as he gets older. James Wood has that same raw power like an Ellie, I think he's very similar to like an O'Neal Cruz type. But I think Spencer Jones does have more upside long term. And then the last guy that I wanted to get to, not a Yankee, but we wanted to mix somebody in for a heat check that in the fantasy baseball, we're a little less rostered, but been a very popular name lately. That would be Mr. Travis d'Arnaud out in Atlanta. Dylan, d'Arnaud's been hot lately, man. How are you feeling about him right now? Is he somebody that you're looking to pick up and rock with? Or are you kind of avoiding him? How are you feeling about d'Arnaud right now?
I guess it kind of depends on your situation, but yeah, he's had a heck of a start to the year. But I know 3 of his home runs came in one game, and then didn't the other 2 come in the same week as well? So it just had a ridiculous 1 week. But there hasn't been many weeks in the season. He's been a huge beneficiary of the Sean Murphy injury. Obviously, been getting everyday playing time. I think that changes once he does get back and healthy and in the lineup. I think they'll just get back to whatever they were doing last year. I don't know how they had it, but they had d'Arnaud playing, but not as often. They have Sean Murphy there. They paid him. He's their starter, just waiting for him to get back and healthy. I think he's just been playing real well in a spot situation. Who knows? Maybe another team picks him up at the deadline because of this. But if you're in a pinch and just need a catcher, he's starting every day and playing really well. So I guess you can just ride the hot hand there.
Yeah, so Gary, I know last year Atlanta, obviously they added Sean Murphy and they had Travis d'Arnaud. They started out the year, d'Arnaud was actually playing more than Sean Murphy to start the year, which kind of confused a lot of people. And then by year's end, it was the same thing a little bit. And we found out it was because of all things, Sean Murphy was struggling with the heat in Atlanta, and it was hindering his ability to play every day, which is a really weird.
That's wild.
Weird thing.
Get the dude an IV. Good Lord.
Seriously. And Atlanta came into this year and they said that this is not going to be the same as last year. Sean Murphy is the backstop of the Atlanta Braves, and then he gets hurt with the oblique, and now d'Arnaud's balling out. So, Gary, when Murphy comes back, do you think d'Arnaud has played his way into more at-bats at this point, or do you think it might still go back to the Sean Murphy is our backstop situation?
No, it should absolutely go back to the Sean Murphy experience. And to be honest with you, it's obviously great that Travis d'Arnaud is able to come in and give you production. But you know what? Last year and years prior, I saw Kyle Higashioka in New York go out there and look like the next coming of Babe Ruth during spring training, and everyone said, should he be catching every day? What should we do? And just because you do get short-term production out of any player on your roster doesn't mean that roles need to change. I just think Atlanta overall has built a healthy lineup to the point where role players are in the perfect role for them. And there's a lot of other organizations that would have a Travis d'Arnaud, and you say, why doesn't our Travis d'Arnaud do this? Like, why can't our Travis d'Arnaud hit 5 homers in a week and a half? Well, the answer is because he's not slotted where he's hitting in the lineup. He doesn't have the type of lineup protection that d'Arnaud has currently. That Atlanta team rakes. They just rake. So, yeah, overall, I think defensively, Murphy's just a huge upgrade. I'm putting Murphy back there. I'm not thinking twice, but I'm still giving d'Arnaud the credit because he looks really good. He just does.
He does. Yeah. He has done literally everything you could have asked for in a guy. I don't want to call him a fill-in because he still played 74 games last year, got almost 300 plate appearances. So he played a considerable amount last year, but for him to come in and take over that full-time catcher gig at 35.
Age 35, right.
Yep. Yeah, not a lot of 35-year-old catchers. For me, I just wrote my Points League Paradise article for Pitcher List, my buy-sell guys for Points League categories. I will give you guys a little look into the future. d'Arnaud is on my sell list. It's not because he's bad, but it is because that 5 home runs and 11 RBIs have come in his last 4-6 games, something like that. And this is as good as it gets, and Murphy is already out catching BP. So it's going to take some time for his bat to come around and him to be able to get back in. But d'Arnaud is starting on borrowed time. So in the world of fantasy, if you have d'Arnaud, I would try and trade him. I think this is as high as his value gets.
Yeah.
But he's also a good player to just rock with. Just rock out for a couple weeks with d'Arnaud in your lineup, get the production, and then move on. Because catcher is pretty deep, so you could probably find one on waivers.
And with a player of Murphy's caliber too, I don't know. I've always had the mindset of it being a little unfair losing your starting job because of an injury. I don't know, especially to a 35-year-old too. Sean Murphy's fine. He's one of the best catchers in the league. He's not, d'Arnaud's not the next coming of anything special or anything like that. Sean Murphy's going to get his spot back, like you said. But yeah, just overall though, when a player loses a spot to injury and they're playing fine, it's not like they're being outperformed or anything like that, just injury. That never really sits well with me either.
Yeah, d'Arnaud's, he just became old enough to run for president, so I don't think he's got many years left.
Good point.
Such a good way to put it. But make sure I'm going to use this. This is a segue into make sure you guys do check out our giveaway we are running currently. You can win a free Fantasy Pros premium subscription for a year. All you got to do is hit that subscribe button on our YouTube and the Fantasy Pros MLB YouTube, and then shoot me a DM on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you feel like it. Just hit me up with screenshots saying you did it. I know Matthew Hennings is in the chat right now. He DM'd me this morning that he entered. That's all you got to do. And then on Tuesday, we will be announcing the winner. And again, free Fantasy Pros premium subscription for a year. You get all the draft tools and in-season help you can ever want. But Gary, tell the people where they can find you.
Yankees Unloaded, YouTube. That's all it is. So we are putting my partner, Jake Ellenbogen. Dude's got a huge Rams podcast, and he's been the perfect partner. I feel like our show is exactly the angle we wanted to take. Again, it's more like your guys' show where we bring the details out, and we want to actually discuss the details of baseball, which a lot of people don't do. So yeah, Yankees Unloaded on YouTube, and you'll find us there. Thank you guys.
No problem. He has a Hall of Fame last name, by the way. And I got to ask you one more question, Gary. This is super random. I saw a video yesterday of Manny Ramirez out hitting fucking dingers. Right now, who do you think current home run derby rules? Who do you think hits more home runs right now as we sit? Your dad or Manny Ramirez?
Well, Manny Ramirez got popped for steroids twice, so I'm going to go ahead and say Manny Ramirez.
There you go.
Last I checked, my dad's he's aging like a regular person, so I'm going to go Manny Ramirez on this one.
You know what? Touche. Touche. Although the video of your dad hitting dingers with the cigar in his mouth is
That's
fucking
cool. That's legendary, man.
It is pretty cool. Every time it's the anniversary of that, I get like 400 DMs from Barstool about it. So it's a cool moment, and it's exactly who he is. My dad is exactly what you see in that video. He's just a guy who's off the cuff, and he just wants to have a good time. And when he played baseball, ironically, he never had a good time. My dad was this person who was very professional, and he wanted to be better than everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the reason why he stuck around for 22 years. So yeah, but yeah, long story short, I'm going Manny Ramirez every day because of the reason I gave you.
I mean, it's a pretty damn good reason. Make sure you guys go check out Gary at Yankees Unloaded. Make sure you guys follow us on all of our socials at Fake Baseball and at Fake Baseball Pod on whichever one you can find it. And shout out those of you watching on Facebook right now. Just search the Fake Baseball Podcast. We're there live for every episode. And until next week, we will catch you guys next time.